Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Market Snapshot series. My name is Rufas Kamau, Markets Analyst at FX Pesa. So today is a Monday, it's a new week. So we'll be expecting out of events to be happening in the markets this week. So we are going to take a quick tour of the economic calendar, understand what's currently happening, what we're expecting for the day and what we're expecting for the week. Then after we go through these, then we also look at the key technical price patterns before we end the session. So if you have any questions, feel free to type that in the live comment section and I'll be responding to that right away. So first things first, the economic calendar here. So as you can see, today is not quite a busy day. A lot will be expected later in the week. So the only key highlight news was the CPI, or basically the consumer price index, which is an indicator for inflation in Switzerland. So in the previous reading, there was a 0% change month over month, but in this reading, it was 0.3%, which was as expected. So for China, there was an expansion in services sector this morning, which basically led to a big spike in Brent oil prices. And also German trade balance improved to 18.4 billion. So later on in the day, we'll be looking at Italian, French, German, and of course the entire Eurozone final services PMI. So this will be a good measure. It has already happened. So just now, so we have 55.1. Which is basically within the expansion territory, but a slowdown from the previous reading of 55.9. So later on, we'll be looking at the final services PMI for the UK and also producer price index for the Eurozone. So we also be having a speech by ECB President Lagarde. This will be at 4 p.m. Then later on, we'll look at the ISM services in the New York session. So also, we'll also be focusing on factory orders in the US and see whether they're increasing or decreasing. So the projection is that they increased by 0.8% in the previous reading. So the key highlight for the week will be Australia's interest rate data, which will come up tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. So here we expect that the Reserve Bank of Australia will maintain interest rates at 3.85%. And of course, more details will be shared in the RBA rate statement about future or oncoming monetary policy. So later on Wednesday, whether in the morning, we'll get a follow-up speech by RBA Governor Ueda. Then GDP for Australia. Then we also be looking at more Chinese data, basically trade balance and USD denominated trade balance. Then we will look at the leading indicators in Japan. All these seem to be low impact news up until we get Canadian interest rate data, which is expected to be maintained at 4.5% on Wednesday at 5 p.m. So besides these, we'll be looking at unemployment claims in the US, a series of Japanese data ranging from bank lending to current account, final GDP price index, final GDP for Japan, and also the economy watchers sentiment for Japan. So we also be looking at more volatility on Friday. So Friday, this is when we'll be having the Canadian jobs data or employment change in Canada over the last 1 month. So this is also expected to raise some volatility in the markets. And of course, Chinese inflation data and producer price index on Friday at 4:30 a.m. So on summary, I would say we have an interest rate decision by two central banks. One is Bank of Canada. The other one is Reserve Bank of Australia. We have jobs data coming up on Friday for Canada, a host of Japanese data and also Chinese data. So this is expected to raise some good volatility, which basically creates some good opportunities for the week. So as for today, I think the only news that we should be focusing on is the speech by ECB President Lagarde, and of course, the ISM services PMI later on at 5 p.m. So besides that, the other one, the markets are basically technical traders territory. So a lot of investors will be following up with the charts to try and understand the key price levels. So the very first chart that you can see here is a chart of Brent oil. So you can see the big spike that happened early in the morning. So market opened here and jumped all the way up to the resistance here, pulled back down, and now is headed much higher to the previous high. So there is a good chance we'll be seeing the 78.485 price being tested yet again, basically showing the amount of resilience the oil markets had, especially after dropping down to $71.5 last week. So we saw some very good resilience. The market started recovering after hitting the bottom here. And there is a good chance we'll be seeing the market retest the previous high today. And of course, if the markets were to break this area, then our next target would be potentially the previous high here, around $80.42 per barrel. So US equity indices made a very strong comeback on Friday. So you can see the big rally here. And then today, you can see in the early morning Asian session, they were really struggling, but now we are seeing volatility coming into the markets, and perhaps we'll be seeing some more continuation. So it's the same story for the US NASDAQ 100. So quite a good rally on Friday. Today, it's attempting to continue with the same story. And of course, for the S&P 500, big jump on Friday, pulled back, and today it seems like volatility is coming in. So be on the lookout for our potential opportunities towards the upper side. So for AUD-USD, clearly, very strong bullish momentum towards the end of last week. But then we can see it's pulling back downwards as the dollar index continues strengthening. So for the majors, if you look at the dollar index, it's pretty clear that after the sell-off that we saw on Thursday, Friday, a recovery. Today, we could be seeing the market retesting the previous high. And if this happens, then basically means we expect some further downside to be happening, especially for pound USD. So pound USD is already testing a major price level. So around this area here. So if you zoom out, you'll notice there was a trend line here. So after the market broke towards the upper side, went back, retested, continued all the way up to the major resistance area here. And now the strong dollar is pushing the prices back down. So there is a good chance we'll be seeing the market retesting the lower trend line here. So if I redo the trend line again, so on the short run, it seems like this is the key price target here, around 1.237. So this bearish momentum is expected to continue. New Zealand USD making a good rally on Thursday and on Friday before pulling back downwards. And today you can see it's continuing to weaken against the dollar. So I'll be expecting some further downside to be happening here. So on a higher time frame, say the 4-hour chart, you'll notice there was a key level trend line here. So after the market broke to the lower side, went back to retest, and now is seemingly moving down lower. And of course, if you check on the daily time frame, this is basically what we had. So a market that was testing the resistance, tested again before pulling back downwards. So this is the first time that we saw the market changing direction in a while. And after this, you can see there's more pressure to move downwards. So after this big sell-off, market recovers for one day, then for 2 consecutive days, seems to be moving further back downwards. So if you use the 4-hour chart, this is how it looks like. So of course, there's that expectation that we could be seeing the market retesting the previous low. And this is last week's low of 0.59869. And of course, it's still in the book, so the market could also retest this area here. So if the dollar was to weaken again, then this would be the potential play. But then, of course, if the dollar remains strong, then the target remains on the lower side. We expect the New Zealand dollar to be losing to the US dollar. So USD card, same story, goes back, forms a double top, drops all the way down. So we are yet to hit a major support level. So there's still room for some more downside momentum. So yes, the market bounced off this one, went up, down, up, down. So if you are a breakout trader, then it would make sense go to a smaller time frame, let's say the 15 minutes chart, and then monitor the volatility around here, especially these highs and lows. So from let's say this low here, and then you basically monitor the movements of this low, waiting for some form of breakout. So once the breakout happens, then it might be the signal to go for a long or a short position, depending on the direction of the breakout. So USD JPY also making a very impressive recovery here. So test of the previous high, 140.91, seems like a nice target. And of course, a pullback here would also be welcome. So if the market was to make a pullback here, then it would make more sense to look for a buying opportunity and target the previous high. So the target remains the same. The previous high is 140.911. So as for gold, it made an impressive run here after hitting this bottom. Trade here for a couple of days before moving even higher to a major resistance level at 1983. And then the dollar really strengthened on Friday, and you can see gold dropping all the way back downwards. So there is a good chance we will be looking to test the previous low, which is a 1931 price level. So that remains a potential target for gold. So any pullback to the upper side would be very welcome to look for more shorts. So that's it for the day. Let me check if there's any questions. Morning, Rodney. Morning, young CEOs. Morning, guys. Morning, everyone. So I'm trying to filter here, looking for a question. Logged in from Nakuru. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining in. How do one trade news, bro? I try to interpret what the fundamental news imply and how investors may react to it. So that's a good question. What do you expect for the dollar index after today's 5 p.m. news? Do we have a strong dollar this week? And of course, there's always the question of gold. So I think for the question of gold, I've already answered that. So let me answer just one question that seems important for today. So the dollar index. So the dollar index seems very strong because a lot of investors are expecting that the Fed will continue to tighten policy, especially after the strong jobs data that came in on Friday last week. So now that we know there's a very strong jobs data and a very hot labor market in the US, then the Fed might still find it very difficult to fight inflation, which as per the previous reading was at 4.9%. So the Fed wants to push this inflation back to 2%. As long as the hot labor market continues being hot, then there is a good chance that inflation will keep rising. So in order to achieve that inflation target, the Fed might go ahead and hike interest rates, which has the direct effect of strengthening the dollar. So that's why we had this pullback here, because people are expecting that the Fed would pause. But then after Friday's data, we saw the dollar recovering strongly. And today, there is a good chance we'll be seeing the dollar going for the previous high, which is all the way up. So if this plays out today, then the other currencies will be basically trading against a very strong dollar. So that's why I have these expectations that pound USD will continue dropping, New Zealand USD will continue dropping, and so on. So that's the analysis for the day, and perhaps even for the week. If the dollar remains strong, then we'll be seeing other currencies losing to the dollar. So I think I've answered that one. So for the other question about news, let's see. So for today, we have ISM services coming up later. So let's just share this. So ISM is basically a survey that is done by the Institute for Supply Management in the US. So on this survey, they go to procurement managers and look at the orders that they have in the services sector. So in this survey, it's rated with 50.0 as a midpoint. So if it's moving above 50, basically means that the services sector is expanding. If it's below 50, then the services sector is contracting. So as you can see, the previous reading was 51.9, basically implying expansion. And now we're expecting 52.6. So the outcome of the data will be compared to what the Fed is looking to do. So if services are expanding well, basically means that there is more activity happening in the services sector. Then it means that there's more money that people will have in their pockets, which will basically make the inflation problem bigger. So in that case, if the services sector is expanding strongly, then the Fed will have to go ahead and implement a rate hike, which would be very positive for the dollar. So strong services will be very strong for the dollar. And of course, weak services would be negative for the dollar. So that's how we interpret the news. So we basically wait up until 5 p.m. And once the announcement is made, we know how to interpret that information. And of course, a disclaimer, the market doesn't always move as expected. Sometimes you might find some surprises. So that's it for the day. Thank you very much, everyone. And I hope to see you guys on the next session. So remember, tomorrow we have 2 sessions, one at 11 a.m. and the other one will be happening at the US market open, and that's 4 p.m. Kenyan time. Does it mean that gold will retest 1963? We could be seeing that happening, but for now, I'm expecting a strong dollar. So a strong dollar would mean that this bearish momentum continues. So there's a high likelihood that we'll be seeing gold going for 1931 compared to 1964.